I took Swimsuit Girl to the lake the other day, and it reminded me of this awesome presentation you can make in fall. So stay tuned. You guys are gonna, oh, is that Swimsuit Girl right there? Check out them apples, homie. We got Swimsuit Girl bringing us luck, and then we got bass fishes.
You son of a bitch. Got him that time. That's a big one. Just letting the freaking underspin fall straight down. That's a big one, dude. That's a big old largemouth. Look at that joker. Okay, so we figured out the retrieve. I'd say that's getting the boat. Swimsuit Girl for once is gonna bring us some luck. Check that joker out.
Fishing bros and broettes. Welcome to Garage Talk. Got a really cool topic for you. If you troll through your YouTube queue right now, I bet you'll see a ton of videos. They're all about spinnerbaits. Fall spinnerbaiting in fall. Why spinnerbaits rule fall spinnerbaits? You know, kind of, you get the idea. But spinnerbaits are a great bait this time of year. I love throwing them. It's probably one of the best times of year, other than sort of that late pre-spawn period, to throw a spinnerbait. The reason being is those blades really mimic a lot of the small bait fish, a lot of the shad that we see kind of like piled up. And even if you don't have shad in your lake, you'll still see a lot of minnows as that water cools down, kind of get in big groups and causes those fish to school up. And a spinnerbait's a great way to mimic it because you have that head and then you have those blades flickering and it looks just like a little pot of bait. However, as you know, this channel is all about underdogs, things that don't get enough love because YouTube literally throttles our views. And speaking of that, you can change that. Go ahead and go down and hit that subscribe button. I think a lot of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button if you enjoy this kind of content. If you don't enjoy it, hit the dislike button. I'm all about honesty, direct discourse. But support stuff that you think either helps grow your fishing, or that you just have fun and enjoy. If you like bog, hit the button. You know, it's that simple. Another quick thing too, I think a lot of you guys don't know that this channel is one of the original YouTube channels. Like before fishing was fishing on YouTube, we were making fishing videos on YouTube. You know, back when John B, like the original content, there was probably like 20 of us that really made, 20 of us in the world that made like fishing videos on YouTube. And really, it's always been about grassroots content, and there's a ton of stuff up on this channel. Whether you like to offshore fish, whether you like to grass fish, whether you like crankbaits, whether you like spinnerbaits, A-rigs, there is something for everybody. So go back in that queue, dig through some of the videos if you're looking for some cool tips and techniques or some just fun fishing videos with some big fish. Go check them out. But back to the point. I'm just going to get right to it. I love upside down spinnerbaits, and I love calling them that too. So what's an upside down spinnerbait? We're going to talk about a few different variations, but the general concept is this guy right here. It's basically an underspin, as they're called now. This one is a Gambler Minnow. Fish Head Spin, I think, is the classic brand when it comes to underspins. The reason I call these upside down spinnerbaits, I think it's pretty obvious, because the blade is absolutely in the wrong place. And we're going to talk about a few different variations. I'll give you a little tease. There's a lot of different variations and a lot of different brands, but let's break down first off kind of what you're getting out of a few of them. So this is the Minnow, like I mentioned, and the reason I like this guy and the specific situation for it that I like is it has a little bit of an arm right there. Do you see? So you have your main weight with the actual hook embedded, and then you have this arm that goes down to a secondary head as well as a swivel and then a blade. What's really cool about this is the fish are oftentimes suspended this time of year. You know, they're up in the water column because the bait's up in the water column. However, they're suspended over whether it's cover or whether it's structure. So they could be suspended over a point, you know, gravel point, rock point, grass point, whatever, as well as timber or trees or brush piles. And when you have this armature, what it does is just like on a traditional spinnerbait, it allows you to sort of tick various pieces of cover on the bottom, even though you're fishing an open hook type presentation, and get away with it basically. And as we all know, those of us that fish crankbaits, a lot of you guys fish a lot of crankbaits, one of the biggest things that you can do to get more bites on a crankbait is to have it bounce off stuff and react to things, bouncing off the bottom, bouncing off wood, bouncing off a dock piling. You can achieve the same thing with this, and that's one of the reasons that I will throw this specific one, because I can bounce it off various types of cover. The fish head spin, and then this guy, this is a Cumberland Pro version. They have an armature that's more just straight down. It doesn't dangle down as much, and then you get the blade straight off the bottom. I use this more in open water presentations, as well as burning it. It tends to burn a little bit better. But you don't get that benefit of being able to feel the cover before your hook is embedded in it. So with these guys, unlike a spinnerbait, you can put a trailer on a spinnerbait, but me personally, I rarely fish a trailer on a spinnerbait unless I'm on a real big fish bite and I want that thing bulked up. These guys almost necessitate a type of trailer. One of my favorite trailers is using a small style swim bait. This is pretty classic. So you have a Kitech, and I think that's a 3.8. You can do a 2.8. It's a pretty standard presentation, any color, but you just thread it up the hook, and then you get that nice kind of boot tail kicking action. What's nice with using a swim bait on these guys, as I mentioned earlier, they do have some rolling issues. Even the most perfect underspin is going to roll when you reel it too fast. What actually happens, it's like water dynamics. So that boot tail right there actually provides it's almost like a rudder. It provides stability, and it keeps the bait from sort of swinging out too much. The bait will still get a little bit of a wobble on it just because that blade is kind of going back and forth. But that boot tail, like I said, it's kind of like a rudder. It sort of stabilizes the track of the bait, so it keeps it from rolling completely over, because you always have that drag and that centering point of gravity underwater, sort of pulling and sort of keeping that bait set and on track and in tune. However, I'm going to show you one of the rigs that I think is really cool, and it's more functional as we get into winter. What I like to do is, since a lot of guys fish boot tails on there, another actual one, I don't have it rigged up so I can't show you, but the flapping shad, basically it's a jerk bait with a paddle tail on it. You can actually put that on the back of there and clip the tail and have it just do like a swimming worm kind of deal. That's a real cool setup. Maybe we'll do another video on that. But the sneaky setup that I like to do with these guys is this. This is a bait. This video is all about things that don't get enough love. This is a shaky shad. A Gambler shaky shad does not get enough love. It's one of the original straight tail shad looking style baits like that. And in winter, less is more. But at the same time, fish tend to kind of gravitate, and even in late fall, they tend to gravitate towards harder style presentations. So I would call this upside down spinnerbait a harder type presentation. But I want it to not have that much sort of rocking action, and that's what you get with that boot tail. You get a lot more swimming. It's a swim bait, so it's going to kind of rock and roll and have that kicking style action. With winter and colder water periods, I want more of a sort of a penduluming drag. I think there was a Smith Lake Bass Open that Jacob Prosnick won, and he was talking about penduluming a drop shot rig. So he's not pulling it, he's not reeling it and swimming it. It's sort of just kind of coasting through with a straight tail presentation and gliding. I like to call that sort of a glide presentation. And that's an action that I can get out of this underspin or this upside down spinnerbait when I set it up like this. So I will take a shaky shad, which is straight. It's a drop shot style or shaky head style bait. And it comes out to a little bit of a thinner part right there. You have the thicker part. So I'll bite it down like about 1/4 of an inch. And then I will always match your hook to see about where it comes out. So I'm about right there. Let's see if I can do this under pressure. But I will just thread it on there. And you gotta it's a small bait, so you gotta be a little bit delicate. But I will thread this thing on there to about right. I think that's about it, right there. And then I will slide it up. And there's a little trick you can do if you missed your yep, I'm gonna need to do that because I overdid it a little bit. So you rip it a little bit, and voila. So what you end up getting is it's a very light presentation. So you still have that sort of plastic trailer on there, but as you can see, it's a very streamlined, straight presentation. You're not gonna get a bunch of kicking motion out of that tail. It might shake a little as it goes down, but what it allows this thing to do is when you stop your reel, so you cast this thing out there, let it sink to the bottom, and you start reeling. It's a very pulsated retrieve. this thing is going to rise. It's that 45-degree line tie or 90-degree line tie. I always forget which you call it, but basically a straight up, I think it's a 90-degree line tie. So with the blade on it, even if you don't have a swim bait, it's going to rise, even if there's just a plastic on the back. So I'll do sort of a 5, 6, 7, depending on the depth, reels, and then I'll let this thing pendulum down on a semi-taut line. And with a swim bait, it kind of swims down, and I don't know how to explain it. Basically, it just swims down. With a straight tail like this, where it's a very streamlined presentation, this thing just kind of glides down, and it can kind of sort of fall to the side. It doesn't always fall exactly straight, but it falls in a very sort of sliding, like a gliding pattern. And it looks just like basically a bait fish, like dying, like a shad dying, because the water's getting colder, the bait fish are starting to die. And it's a very subtle presentation. What's really nice with this too is it allows you to mimic some of those smaller baits that we see in mid to late fall, even in winter. And I'm a strong believer in winter, unless you get on a big swim bait bite or something maybe related to grass and reactions. Smaller presentations will usually get you more bites and can still get you a lot of big bites in winter. But compacting that smaller presentation, you don't get a lot of bites when that water gets super cold. So making it smaller, making it something that's more palatable to those fish is important. But it's a cool way to rig this thing up, and it's a way that they don't see it. And I think you can do it with almost any drop shot bait, trying out some maybe those power bait minnows, anything with like a straight sort of streamlined tail or straight body to it. You can slide that thing on there. Hell, you could even put a stick bait on there and do the same thing. But you can play with some presentations, because this gives you the idea. The general goal is to get that sort of penduluming, sort of glide style action when you pause the bait, and even when you're slow reeling it. Because if you slow reel this thing slow enough, it'll actually just kind of gradually come to the boat back in like an arc. But super cool bait. There's some variations to it too. We're not going to get super in depth in them, but I want to highlight them. Sometimes you need to go a little bit smaller than just your standard upside down spinnerbait, your underspin. And a couple presentations that I have for it, if you go back in some of the older videos, this is a Cumberland Pro. It's a little hair jig with a small tailspin, and that's what in general these other lures I'm going to show you are called. These are tailspin style baits. They don't require a trailer. They're super compact. They require lighter action rods to throw on. Like for instance, this guy, I'll throw this on maybe like a 7 foot medium action bait caster. When it comes to some of these tailspins that I'm showing you, most of them are going to require it throwing it on spinning rod or like a medium light like bait caster. You got to throw them on pretty light tackle, because you can't overwork them. It's very much a reeling kind of presentation, pretty slow, and then maybe popping it from time to time. And then this is another version of the exact same thing. Once again, I think this is a revenge version, but you have your lead weight, the vertical line tie right there, and then you have that tailspin. All of these are perfect when these fish are keyed in on hard bait, when you need something that's sort of reactionary, but you need to fish it sort of in the in-betweens of the water column, and you want something smaller. Smaller. This is another one. This is the Lunker Hunt version. Tailspin right there. You got your ball bearing swivel. They're kind of cool baits, and they seem super small. What's kind of interesting with them too is you'll catch anything. If you have walleye in your lake, you'll catch them. If you have speck or crappie, as I call them, or as you guys call them, you'll catch those. It's a very much catch anything type of presentation when all these fish are congregated, all focused on all this bait that's potting up in mid to late fall as well as winter. But check these guys out. Definitely try an underspin. If you guys haven't done an upside down spinnerbait, they're fun, and you'd be surprised how hard they whack them. For being like a little sort of ditzy kind of presentation like that, these fish smoke them. And it's a great way to fish a little ways up in the water column with a smaller presentation, but still a reaction style bait. Very cool presentation. I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description box at Tackle Warehouse. And like I said, guys, if you guys enjoy this kind of content, real fishing, no FBS, a little bit of bog, the rescue pit bull from time to time, make sure you support it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and as usual, definitely drop any other baits in that sort of upside down spinnerbait category that you would recommend down in the comments box, because I read them, and I can guarantee you a lot of other anglers that are watching these videos read them. So your insights are welcome right here. Add your knowledge. But tight lines, guys. We'll see you either back here from the garage or back out on the water talking fishing.